Hey crafters, I'm going to get started with the tutorial for my photo frame folio. So this is what the front of this one looks like, and it's a Christmas, I use Christmas papers that were by Blue Fern, and it's a Country Craft Creations guest designer project. And so for the tutorial though, I want to use different paper collections, so it'll give you an idea about what other kinds of paper collections you can use. It's a blue fern, sorry, paper again, but it's the one called Bird Walls. So we're for sure going to get our book put together and some of our pages in tonight, and we'll see where we go with time-wise and how far we get. But the photo frame folio, and this is for Country Craft Creations. All right, so the first thing that we're starting with is I like to work with my covers. And so with the covers, what you're going to need is 2 pieces of medium weight chipboard at 8 by 10. So then the cardstock that you're going to need is you're going to need 2 pieces of 10 by 12. And then you will need 2 pieces of chipboard for the spine, and the spine is 1 by 12. It's 1 inch by 12, and with the spine I like to have a little bit better coverage on the sides because of how we're going to put it together. So I have, the sheet is 4 by 12 is how I put that together. So you're going to need 2 sheets. A 4 by 12 cardstock, 2 chipboard medium weight that are 1 by 12, oh sorry, 1 by 10. Please excuse me, 2 pieces of chipboard that are 1 by 10. I apologize. And then the last part that we're going to add to this is another cover, because it's a kind of a 3-fold type of cover, and this one I have is 7 by 10. I wanted to make it about an inch shorter. So what you're going to need then to cover this is you're going to need a piece of cardstock, and that cardstock will then be 9 by 12. And we're going to go ahead and cover over that. So what we're going to work on is covering this trifold cover, and then I'll show you how I covered the spine, and then we'll work on getting the book together. So let's get going on that. All right. So one of the things that I did, I had some leftover of this tape, but otherwise I usually use the score tape sheets from Country Craft Creations, and I use those on the back of my chipboard because I think that it really gives me a nice finish to the cardstock when it's all said and done. I love my the art glitter glue is what I use for most everything, but when it comes to just doing the covers, I like to do the score tape on one side because it gives me a nice flat edge. So I'm going to bring my scoreboard into here. I'm going to put my, boy, I'm going to have a hard time talking again. I'm so sorry that I'm kind of muddling through my conversation here. So we're going to put our cardstock down on the mat, and then these are 2 pieces of lightweight chipboard that will give us a nice straight edge around here. So we're going to put this down, and this will make it fairly even. You know, doesn't mean that it won't ever be off, but it can be off, but usually it's pretty good with those pieces of chipboard. So then what we would do with each of these, this is the cover, I take on the back of here to go through and just really see to get any air out of those the score tape. And then I go and I just use my mat to help me get a good bend or fold on this. And if it's a little bit crooked, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be inside the cover, and it'll be covered over with other patterned paper. So you should be good. So just try to get those sides bent really well. And this black cardstock is artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations. And honestly, I'm not saying it because I'm doing the design team project here. I love this cardstock. I rarely, if ever, have it crack or anything. It's beautiful. It looks nice on projects. It's a nice weight. It's about a 80 to 87 pound weight. And when I'm cutting out the corners on here, many people like to do the angled cut. I used to do that as well. I started doing this way because Tammy has, and I actually like how it turns out better. I feel like I end up with a cleaner cut overall. So once I've got this done, then I go through my cover and I just angle cut from here, and I go all the way around the just slicing off the edge of the cardstock. But one of the things that was a trick that Tammy taught us is keeping your scissors on your chipboard cover, and it helps you so that you don't cut into the corner of the chipboard or the cardstock. So we'll go along here. One of the other things that I don't do with my covers is I don't usually use score tape around the flaps of the edges because I feel like my art glitter glue does a good job with that. So you are welcome to do score tape all the way around if you prefer that, but I always use my art glitter glue. I need to hold it a little while just to make sure it stays very strong because this pulls back from it while you're, because it's such a strong pull on there for the cardstock. So then I just go and I go butt it up against the chipboard there and run this down here. And I use my bone folder. And in using my bone folder, bring that up and bring that over. I usually like to have one of my wipes just in case anything does come out a little bit. It's nice and clean. And got this one. A lot of little tricks that I do now with my mini albums. There are several of them that I've learned from Tammy, and these are nice little tips and tricks, like the other one with the sides of gluing this down. I always glued them down with, along the flap, but I didn't always put it right up against the chipboard, and I really like the way that it holds the cardstock onto the edge of the chipboard. It really makes a nice finished look. So that's another little trick that I've seen her do, and I've started to do it on my albums as well. And as crafters, it's wonderful to hear all kinds of tips and things that if there's something that you've learned or something that's been a great tool for you, share it down in the comments so that other people can use that or try out your crafty tip. I always kind of think of crafting as crafters being able to share their tricks and tips and enjoy the conversation around creativity. So I just think that that's the fun part of crafting. Finding something new, trying something new. Because even though I do mini albums, I do really enjoy a lot of other different types of crafts. I may not have a lot of time to do them all, but I've kind of dabbled in a lot of different crafts. So again, we have our trifold cover in here, and that's done until we're going to cover with our paper, and I'll put that off to the side. Now for the spine, we have 2 spines, and we are going to use, we're going to cover just one of them because the coverage for the other one is done, but the coverage for the spine is done a little bit differently. It's a way to help to put the book together so that it lays flatter, and it works very, very well. So with this, as I mentioned, the sides of this are a little bit wider. Rather than an inch, they're probably about 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches. Well, it's 4, so it'd be 1.5 inches on both sides. So I'm just going to put my spacer up here. Oh, I guess I could eyeball it, and I didn't do that the last time, and I was a little bit more off, but it's all good. All good. So again, with the score tape, just make sure you try to get all the air pockets out of that. And this is a bit narrower, but we're still going to do the same thing. Going to utilize our table or board to try to get some nice bends and folds in our cardstock. I'm going to apologize right up front that if I am off on the screen at all, I do apologize. I do look at my videos after, and sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I was in frame and I was out. So I promise I'll get better as I go. So, and then we'll do this side. So other crafts and things that I've done is I like to knit. I am more of a British style knitter, so I don't know what it's called as far as the actual name of the style, but it's more of the throwing of the yarn versus some ladies knit so fast. Mine is a very slow knit, but I enjoy it. One of the things that I've made several of is I've done some Christmas stockings for wedding presents. And I thought that was a fun idea for the couple, that they have their first Christmas stocking and it has their wedding date on it. So that I've done a few times. I don't crochet though. I can't do it because I knit very tight. So in knitting very tight, that doesn't work well with crocheting. So now that we've got this all folded, I'm going to take from this line down to here, and I'm just going to do an angle cut there. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, an angle cut. All 4 spots. And this is for it to work well with our binding, and it will also be cut down a little bit more so it doesn't show underneath our paper. So the other thing that I will do is I'm going to crease on this side because, you know, different from the other way of binding the book, we're actually going to place our book on top of here. And just be careful, don't use a sharp bone folder. Your Teflon bone folder is usually pretty good for this because it won't tear the paper. Like I said, I rarely ever get this. I think it's torn on me one time, and that's just because honestly I was pushing way too hard. So I'm going to come along here with my art glitter glue. I know some people come alongside here and they do like to put score tape on this piece. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. This time I didn't. So, kind of for the sake of just trying to keep this moving. All right, let's put this side. And please leave any questions that you may have in the comments below. I would really appreciate that. And it's always nice to see if you enjoy the video that or the tutorial that you like, and subscribe. That's wonderful if you would like to. Just helps me to know sometimes that the projects that I'm doing are projects that you like to see. That's also a nice thing. So, all right. So then we have this like this. So what we're going to do next with this is cut so that the reason why we're going to cut this next piece is that we don't want this piece being or showing underneath our pattern paper. So we're just going to come along here and we're going to cut an angle along this way. Same thing, I'm going to come up along here and I'm going to catch that and I'm going to cut along here. Same thing on this side. And this really helps for when you're putting it together, because actually the first time I did this binding process, or putting the books together, I didn't do all those cuts, and actually my cardstock stuck out of my underneath my pattern paper. It didn't look awful, but it wasn't quite what it was supposed to be. So now we have our spines and we have our other pieces that need to be put together. So what we're going to start with is take one of the 8x10s and we're going to take both of the spines and we're going to flip the spines over. Actually, I'm going to move this so that I have more room. I'm going to flip these over, and now this time around I am going to get some score tape and I'm going to put that on this part of the binding. And part of the reason for that is because I don't want to have any of the art glitter glue. I don't want it to come out on the spine or the open part of the spine, because sometimes with the glue it can, I don't want to say stain, but it can mark and leave marks on the black cardstock. So we're just going to do those two that it's a little bit closer up, so it's a little bit more of a solid hold, and we're not going to worry about art glitter glue squirting out on our cover. So what we're going to end up doing with this is one of the back pieces we're going to take, and we'll line this up with this here once I get the art glitter glue on. And then this side we will end up putting the 7x10 piece on this side, and then we'll get this other side on and we'll get the other 8x10, and then we'll have our book put together. So I'm going to start out by getting this off. I still do put art glitter glue on here. I just don't put it so close to the edge of the binding in the book. So apologize if my head's in the way or I'm out of screen. Just line that up, and see, you can see I even have a little bit of the art glitter glue coming out there. I think I'm gonna take my fingernail and run it right down in there, and then we'll take this good. And let's go ahead and get our 7x10. That's actually going to be fitting onto this side, and we'll get that working. Sally Phelan, I'm not sure whether you're watching this video or not, but here's my little pile of scraps. Sally says that she likes to, she loves to create a pile for her scraps of score tape. So, and any of these supplies, the score tape and the art glitter glue, can all be bought at Country Craft Creations, and I'll tell you that the staff and shipping is really good. They do an excellent job, and they really work to serve all their customers so well. So if you're looking for a great experience and a great crafty store, other than your local craft store, this Country Craft Creations is really a great online store. And I wouldn't say that so much if I didn't feel that way, but I'm just amazed by what Tammy accomplishes with all her goings on, all the tutorials she does, and all the retreats. She's just amazing. So there we go. We have this spine. So our spine is going to go like that. We've got to get our next one on. Can't figure out which way is up, right? All right, so I'm going to put I watch so many people do score tape, and I watch them do the tear, and it looks so easy. I don't know how come I just can't do it as easily as other people do. But I put my little block away, and I'm not sure where I put it, so I'm just rolling with the punches here. Okay, so we've got our score tape down nice and solid. Why am I, oh. Okay, see, there you go. I made a mistake already. It's just the way it goes. See, put my score tape on the wrong side. I guess that won't hurt anything though. There we go. I always like to be able to show you how wonderful, all the wonderful mistakes I can make. So here we go. Once again, you probably were all watching me do this and yelling at me saying, "Stop! You're putting it on the wrong side." Well, I didn't hear you. Oh, goodness. We cover that other side over when we get to the inside, so it should be all good. I always joke around and say that when these kinds of things happen, these are my opportunities for creativity, or my creative opportunities. So to see how things can change. This one doesn't have to be so bad. I can just use that score tape. Where did I put my score tape to hold the inside down? So, all right. Keep doing that, don't I? Oh, that wasn't good. There we go. So then we're going to do this other side. If I can find my little crafty tools here. my other bottle of glue with my metal tip on it. I can't get my cover off, and I need to refill it. So struggling with that right now, so I grabbed a different bottle, and I don't have a metal tip for it. Well, I probably should, but I can't really put my hand on it right now either, and I figured this will work just as good as long as I'm a little bit light-handed with my glue. So there we go. And this is a way that I put the mini albums together. If it's not something that you're comfortable doing, then do it the way that is most comfortable for you, because it will work. The other full sheet methods, that'll all be just fine as well. I just find that this method really gives us a much flatter album, and I think that it works well for the mini album itself. So when it's all said and done, this is how we're going to look. We are going to have our album fit together like that. And what I did is I used quite a few magnets on this side of the cover in order for that to stay down over here. And again, you're welcome to, if you prefer to use ribbon or something else, you actually could take this and do a tie right here, and then a tie right to the back of here so that it ties at the side. But we're putting a picture frame on front, so I don't want it to run all the way around unless, excuse me, unless you want it to go behind your picture frame. So there is room in here that you could, you know, it can run behind this matted paper, but I call myself the magnet queen, so that's what I'm going to use. So one of the things that I think I'm going to do right away is I'm going to get some pieces put in here that I can do ahead of time before I'm going to do some matting. On this side, I like to mat this before I put the pocket in here, and I have some matting that I want to do on here as well. And then we also need to do the photo frame for the front of here. But for right now, we're going to do the two flaps in the middle. And the flaps in the middle are going to be 8 3/8 by 9 7/8. And then you're going to score a 1/2 inch on this side. I always forget how it goes. If this is 8 3/8, so is that the 8 3/8 side? Yes. Okay. So you're going to need 2 of those. And we're going to score at a 1/2 inch. Oops. And we're going to score at a 1/2 inch for both of those. And as I'm jumping ahead here, I just remembered something else that I wanted to do before I put those in. Actually, what I have here is 2 pieces of black cardstock where I just want to cover the inside spines. And I just took some of my remnants, and as you can see, they're not exactly the same size, but for a 1/2 inch difference or 3/8 of an inch difference, I wasn't going to worry too much about that. So I'm just using what I have for my leftovers, and so that I can cover over these spines and give them a little bit more of a solid coverage. So that's what we're going to do right now. And I don't think I'm going to put any more score tape on this because this is here already. And then I'm just going to put my art glitter glue in the back and run this down. I feel like what this does is that it just ends up giving it a little bit more sturdiness. Sorry. I've got to turn it so I can see it a little bit better. There we go. And then one of the things that I'll do is, once this has a chance to dry a little bit, I will bend up the edges of that spine. All right, so then let's do this side. And I am going to pull out my score tape and just do that on here. All right. And, okay, where did I throw the other one? Is it right there? Yep. So, make sure that's pressed down good. No air bubbles. Should really lay my tools right back where they were, and I wouldn't have an issue of always trying to have to look for them. But that would make too much sense, right? So, alrighty. And just true form with art glitter glue, you don't have to put gobs and gobs and gobs of art glitter glue on, because it is a very sturdy and strong glue. Unlike some other glues that might need a little bit more product behind the stick. So there we go. Well, we have both of those sides in. Now let's just get these to stick down real good. And again, with this folio, you have the opportunity to move things around. You don't have to do a waterfall in the exact same place that I did the waterfalls, but completely up to you. So I'm going to let this dry just a little bit before I bend it up, and we'll do that in a minute. So meanwhile, I'm going to grab my other pieces of cardstock, and I'm going to bend these over. Now, in the last book, I don't know that I necessarily talked about it, but I did have a 1/4 inch gusset on these pages because I thought that I would need that for inside for the extra pictures, but it really ended up being quite a flat inside, and the layout was quite flat as well. So I'm reducing the gusset in this. I'm just doing a regular fold and not really doing a gusset on it, because I think that it will be just fine because we matted this all out. That's at least my thoughts behind it. Whether I'm going to regret it or not, we'll see. I don't think so, though. I think it was pretty good the way it was. Or not the way it was. I think I had more room than I needed. And even the waterfall that goes on top of that page, I'm not going to do a gusset quite as large. I did I believe a 1/2 inch gusset on that, so I probably will do a 3/8 inch gusset on that to give a little bit of room underneath, but it's not going to be like the other one, is quite as wobbly as the other one. And really, when it's all said and done, that the book has a lot of room in it or the folio has a lot of room in it for adding pictures. It's not going to, you're not going to run out of room. So let's check this out. So I made these the same, but I want to take off just like 1/8 of an inch on one side of this, and I don't know if I did that or not yet. Let's get our one page in after we bend these spines up a little bit. Sorry if I'm jumping around, or it feels like I'm jumping around a little bit here. I don't mean to. So just take your time. You don't want to tear any of that cardstock, and just always want to be careful with that because it is paper. It's not indestructible. But the good thing, it is paper. You can usually fix or correct things because it is paper. So this is how our book goes again. So, all right. What I am going to do is I'm going to take one of these pages and I'm going to put it down and center it top and bottom. And I'm just going to use my art glitter glue, but I'm also going to make sure that I'm staying back from that spine just a little bit so that I can make sure that it's even and that the spine is not going to interfere with the page, or the page isn't going to interfere with the spine. But I find that doing the folio this way, I don't really have as much problems with pages that are up against a spine, because I find that there's extra room in that gutter that really helps with the spine so that it doesn't kind of get caught in there. There we go. So we've got that side on. And I did not use any magnets in here. I used a ribbon. And the reason why I did that is because I can mat this on the inside and I can put my ribbon in here after the fact, really. Not after the fact per se, but as I'm matting it, so I don't have to worry about it not covering, and also not about not filling it in right away. So one moment, I'm just going to take like a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch off this one, and because it's going to the inside, So as you can see, it's just a very small amount, and I'm just going to check to see how this closes in here. Look at this one more time. It's going to go over a little bit. And let's check that. Oh, that looks pretty good actually. Yeah, okay. I cut those already. It's always better to measure and measure and measure before you have to rip something out again. Well, that's not working very well. I'm being kind of a sloppy glue person here. Oh my goodness. I have that a little bit too tight over there, sorry. Let me do a little bit of wiggling here. Well, maybe not a little bit, maybe a lot of it. This probably works better. I think that works pretty good. See if we're still good. We're still good on there. All right. Looks like I have a little bit of buckling here on my cardstock, so I'm just going to make sure I burnish that down. Take any glue away. And then we've got our center started. So when I do mini albums, as I was saying before, is I have a tendency to kind of do, I do the flaps and flips and things, and then I go, oh, did I not get that straight? Oh, sugar plums. Something I did not get straight. Sorry. So I tend to fold, do the folds and flaps, as well as matting and things as I do it all together. I'm not. There are some people that I've watched on YouTube that will put all their flaps in, and they'll get everything in, and then they go back and mat everything. And I can do that with most of it, but there, like I said, there are sometimes that what I don't like is when I do I'll do a pocket on this side, sometimes the paper has to come in more than I want it to come in on the side. So I am much happier with just covering the whole area. I might shorten that paper, but I cover the whole area so that it fits in the pocket a little bit more easily. But that's usually why I kind of do matting and building at the same time. So what we're going to do is then we're also going to cover these with some paper, and on here what I used is just solid pieces of the paper collection, because there was opportunities for putting pictures or photos down on that paper. And then when we did this whole area opened up to one layout on there. So I'm going to leave those for now, and I think what we'll do is we're going to move on to working on the 7x10 flap. So the small flap, that side of the inside. So we're going to start on this. I'm not going to mat all of this or do all of that tonight. We're just going to do this waterfall part, and then come back and we'll work on some of the other pieces and pages. So for this, I did on that inside pocket, I like to put a base down for my waterfalls. So this is, I call this a waterfall pocket, and I cut it 10 7/8 by 5, and this 5 width, and then I'm going to score a 1/2 inch on every side. And I cut this at 10 7/8. Did I do that wrong? No, I didn't, sorry. Because I would have cut it at 11, but I wanted to cut it slightly shorter than my page so that I make sure that it doesn't stick out of the page. So yes, I did that right. So we're gonna go ahead and we're going to score this on 3 sides, and we will start with this pocket. And I have to score it and get the pocket set before we can even put any of the waterfalls on this pocket. All right. And then for the waterfall, I cut 8 waterfalls at 4.5 by 6. And on the 4.5 inch side, or 4.5, we're going to be scoring a 1/2 inch. So it'll make the lengthwise to be 5.5 inches. So you're going to cut 8 of these at 4.5 by 6. And I've tried to stay with the 6 rather than 6 1/4, and it's really just to save on cardstock. So I figure that when I'm doing photos, I can cut them down just a little bit to make them matte properly on there, or if I just get a smaller photo to put it on there. But I just thought it's a good way of saving a little bit of cardstock. I end up with so many medium-sized slices that there's not much to do with them because they're not big enough unless I'm going to make little booklets, and I'm not a fan of a ton of little booklets in a mini album. Okay. All right. So now that we've got this all scored, let's go ahead and burnish these. And I am going to leave my mat here because the mat does help with aligning our waterfall. I'll tell you, as much as I think I get a waterfall perfect, I find that they're always a little bit off. So nothing's perfect. I know Tammy had done a waterfall another way, and she had done it into like a hinge system. So small hinge, so these waterfall pieces were like more like envelopes or pockets that went on the hinges. So if you're interested in that, I'm not sure what video that was in, but it is in one of her videos. I would say April, May, might be in May or June, would have been in one of her videos then, which can be found on YouTube, on Country Craft Creations YouTube site. And I do not angle the edges of my waterfall scoring folds because I think that it looks better to lay the pattern paper on them. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and we'll take our pocket, score that. So I was talking to you about the crafting that I do. The other crafting that I've done is one of my favorites actually is, and I haven't done it for years now, is basket weaving. Had the opportunity to do that a few times. My sister's done some beautiful baskets. She actually had the opportunity to do a lot of weaving with colored reeds. And then I'm going to just miter these corners on the pocket. And with her, the gal who taught her basket weaving, they did a lot of colored reed, but where I had learned, she didn't really use colored reed as much as she liked to use finish, like raw reed. So I didn't do much with colored reeds, but still the process the same. The other thing that is so fun, this last summer, no, 2 summers ago, I took a class and it was called Pine Needle Basket Weaving. And oh my goodness, that was so wonderful. I really, really enjoyed that. I am going to see if I can get these pieces to stick down for me. Might make it a little bit easier for my pocket. So I never made anything too big, but I made a small little pine needle basket, and they're just beautiful. I think I read with this that it is something that is done frequently in the Carolinas, I believe, because of the type of needles or trees they have down there. So not sure, but I enjoyed it. It was kind of a sewing and weaving kind of process. So, and oh my goodness, some of the ladies that I saw books on, they did these amazing, just amazing baskets with all different colors and swirls and things. So now this, we don't want to get this wrong. This is going to be fitting on our page right in here. And as you can see, or maybe not because of it being black, I have just a little bit off of the edge on this whole thing. And so we want to make sure that when we're putting our flaps on here, that we are, this bottom flap is on this side, is on the right hand side. Because we don't want to have our pocket going in the wrong way. So what I'm going to do is, it's easier, I shouldn't say right hand, it would be left hand side for me because I'm doing it upside down. I like to do it upside down. So I'm going to start by matching this up, and it looks like my little tags or waterfalls are just a tinge off, but I am going to be good with that. I watch some crafters and they seem to always have the most perfect cuts. And I feel like I don't know if I can ever get it quite that perfect. So this is a trick that I've seen other crafters do. Sometimes it works really good for me, and sometimes I still have a lot of kind of putzing around with it to get it to lay flat. But it's a good start. So I'm going to lay these down here. Make sure I am right up against that. And we'll get this up against that. And what I do when I'm putting these on is I try to match these up all the way down as I go, making sure that I'm not getting out of alignment. Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, it just... So our next one, hope you can see this okay. I wanted to do this earlier in the day, but I was working, so I didn't have an opportunity so that I would have more light in here. I hope that the light is okay. So That looks like it's down. Looks like it matches fairly well. And this pocket will just go down the whole thing. I also really enjoy card making. I'm not an expert by a long shot on making cards. There's phenomenal crafters out there, but I enjoy them, and I enjoy doing coloring. My favorite medium for coloring right now is pencils, but again, I'm a very amateur colorist, but it's amazing how you don't have to be perfect for it still to look pretty good. So let me just make sure my cuts are all good on here. Yep. And I've been really enjoying doing some colored pencils, and coloring in some stamps or designs. I also have done some watercoloring. Not very good at it, because I am one of those people that I love tons and tons of art, but I am the worst when it comes to like drawing people or drawing things. I don't have a very good perspective when doing that. I say the best thing I can draw is a flower and stick man. Other than that, I'm a little bit at a loss. What about you guys? I'm so jealous of, not jealous, but you know, it's just, it would be nice to have such talents like Sandy Alnock. She is an amazing artist. Just how easily she puts things together and how they look, it's just amazing. All right, well, we're almost there. So if you have any thoughts or suggestions at all about other projects coming up, I have one that I have to finish up yet, so I'm going to work on to that next, and that'll be a very short, quick finish up to that. And then I have a couple other projects that I've got started I need to finish, but I have a big project I'm going to be doing for a Christmas present this year for a friend, and I really wanted to do it by last year, but I didn't get it done. Too many things going on last year at Christmas for me. And, you know, in my last video I was talking about it. It's, you know, putting together the books is not what takes so long. It is the matting and cutting of the tags and all of that. That's what, for me, takes such a long time. And I have to tell you that the funniest thing is that the most favorite part of putting an album together is covering the book, covering the spines and putting all the paper on it, so creating the actual book itself. And I really enjoy doing that, but I think it's because I can see it done more quickly than I can see the matting done. I enjoy the matting, I enjoy, you know, the whole creative process, but I thought about doing the matting and or building of books, and I thought, you know, I could do a lot of these and maybe I could sell them. So there we go. We have our waterfall done. We have 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And looks like I have a little bit of an angle off on this one, but I'll see once I get everything scored down. But you know, you can see this is a little bit thinner than this one, and this one is quite a bit thicker than that one, but really by the time I get papers on there, it won't be all that noticeable. It might be more noticeable if we were trying to run a pattern down here, but I think I'm just going to take and do just a, you know, different patterns down on this side, and then down here I'll cover this with some pattern paper as well. And so what we'll do is, if you'd like to get some things ready for next time, these are 1/2 inch spots, so we're going to we'll cut the paper at 1/2 inch, just a strip here. Well, you're going to do a full piece on here, and then 1/2 inch all the way down to a full piece on here. And then we'll get to going on our other pockets and doing some of our matting. So we're going to be able to have probably 1-2 more tutorials or videos for this. It's not going to be like 6 or 8 like my last one, but it'll be probably 2 or 3 more at the very, very most. So I'm hoping for 2. But thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me. I appreciate it, and we will meet shortly in another couple days and work on the rest of this. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a great night.